Since childhood, I have been called a prodigy because I possess a natural spiritual body, always able to see things others cannot. The villagers said I was a freak, and even my own family despised me, wishing they could throw me into the mountains to be devoured by wolves. But despite this, an old Taoist priest took an interest in me.
You were born to be a cultivator. Come with me to the temple. I will provide you with food and drink, and teach you to chant spells and draw talismans.
Thank you, Master. I thought I had met a kind person.
However, on the day I came of age, he forced me to draw talismans to make money for him.
You are a goddess descended to earth. Anyone who uses your talismans can ward off evil and cure illnesses.
The villagers believed his deceit and flocked to buy the talismans. But they did not cure illnesses. Some villagers, believing his lies, drank the burnt ashes of the talismans and suffered severe stomach pains.
Return our money, old man. You deceived us.
It wasn't me. She deceived us all. I am also a victim.
The villagers, not distinguishing right from wrong, beat me and tied me to a stake, intending to burn me alive. It was Emily, a traveling healer, who saved me.
I will buy her life. Let her go.
Emily used all her wealth to save me and cured the villagers with her medical skills. She took me away from the village, and we wandered from place to place, relieving people of their ailments.
I will teach you acupuncture during our travels. Thank you, Emily. I will learn.
But perhaps I was never meant to be a good person. I combined talismans with acupuncture and created poisonous needles.
Alice, why did you create poisonous needles? If it can keep me safe, then it is good. But never use it to harm others.
Emily's kindness led to her demise. She was captured by Charlotte, the Prime Minister's daughter, who suffered from a chronic leg condition and forced to treat her with acupuncture. Charlotte's condition had been neglected for too long, and the treatment inevitably caused excruciating pain.
You are doing this on purpose. Block her meridians and make her watch as her most precious hands are reduced to bare bones.
Emily was sent to a medical facility, not for treatment, but as a teaching tool. She was tortured daily with needles until she passed away. In the end, all I received were pieces of her dismembered body, which I couldn't even piece together to give her a proper burial. To avenge Emily, I infiltrated the Prime Minister's residence as a maid, vowing to make Sophia pay for her crimes. Sophia reclined on the chaise longue, enduring the pain in her leg. Her cold gaze swept over the doctors kneeling nearby.
What use are you all to me?
Her anger grew as the doctors remained silent. She threw a cup at the lead doctor, hitting his head. Tea mixed with blood trickled down his forehead.
Miss, we've really tried our best. The Chin family's acupuncture techniques are passed down orally, with no written records.
Are you saying it's my fault for her death?
The lead doctor panicked, kowtowing to Sophia, but it was too late. The guards grabbed his arms and tied him to a chair.
Since you've reminded me of her, why don't you experience what she went through?
The doctor's pupils dilated in fear as Sophia's maid inserted a long needle into his acupoint. She began slicing the flesh from his legs, reducing them to bare bones.
Please, just let me go quickly. Stop tormenting me.
As he wishes.
The maid obeyed, pulling the needle from his leg. The intense pain overwhelmed him, and he ended his suffering by smashing his head against a pillar.
What a waste. Not even as strong as a woman.
She waved her hand impatiently, and the guards dragged the crying doctors out of the courtyard.
Bring the footbath water for Mississippi.
Alice brought the water, trembling. As Sophia soaked her feet, Alice suddenly inserted a needle into her acupoint. Her maid quickly pinned Alice to the ground.
How dare you harm Miss?
Do you know acupuncture?
It's a family tradition, but I also use talismans to enhance its effectiveness.
What's your name?
Grace.
Sophia was pleased. She moved her feet from the water, put on her shoes with the maid's help, and walked a few steps, her face full of joy.
From now on, you'll serve me personally.
Alice was overjoyed, kowtowing to thank her for her kindness. But her gaze fell on the needle still in Sophia's leg. Perhaps she hadn't noticed the faint blackness on it. The talismans transmitted poison to numb her pain.
Emily taught me to heal, but I learned to harm.
Rumors had long circulated that the Crown Prince intended to form an alliance with the Prime Minister's family by marriage, bringing the Prime Minister into his fold.
Sophia, does it hurt?
I'm much better now, Your Highness. You needn't worry.
The Crown Prince sighed in relief, sat down, and took a sip of tea before casually mentioning the banquet at the general's residence a few days ago.
That day, I thought you would attend, so I waited at the door early. But then I heard Olivia say your leg ailment had relapsed. However, Olivia was quite impressive that day. Her dance was no less than yours. Prime Minister Lin has indeed taught his daughters well.
The Crown Prince spoke unintentionally, but Sophia took it to heart. Her expression froze for a moment, and she forced a smile.
Your Highness, my leg was injured while practicing a new dance recently.
That's wonderful! Coincidentally, my mother's birthday is next month. How about you and Olivia have a dance competition? It would surely add some joy to the celebration. If you win, our marriage will naturally follow.
Sophia's eyes lit up. She had longed for the position of Crown Princess for a long time. If she could secure this marriage, she wondered what Olivia could possibly do to compete with her. After sending off the Crown Prince, Sophia handed me a box of ointment.
Take this to Olivia. Tell her it's a gift from the Crown Prince, the best for relieving leg pain.
I nodded and left her room, but I secretly opened the bottle. Just by the smell, I knew something had been added. However, I didn't dare disobey her orders and took the ointment to Olivia's courtyard.
A gift from the Crown Prince? Apply it for me immediately.
Miss Olivia, I advise you to check this ointment carefully.
Hearing my words, Olivia's joyful expression changed instantly. She had me sent back to Sophia's room and had her maid deliver a message.
Sister, if you can't discipline your maid, I don't mind doing it for you. She dared to say the Crown Prince poisoned me. How reckless!
Sophia looked at me kneeling on the ground with a sinister smile. She grabbed my face, forcing me to look into her eyes.
Grace, I misjudged you. I thought you were smart, but you're just foolish. Did you hear what the Crown Prince said yesterday and decide to side with Olivia?
I didn't.
But Sophia didn't care to listen. She let go and called out. Several maids responded immediately.
Take her away, break her legs, and send her to the clinic as a teaching tool. I don't need disloyal people here.
Emily took me away from the village, and we wandered from place to place, relieving people of their ailments. She also taught me acupuncture during our travels. But perhaps I was never meant to be a good person. I combined talismans with acupuncture and created harmful needles.
Alice, what have you done? These needles, they're dangerous. I'm sorry, Emily. I thought they could protect us.
Emily found out and was furious, but in the end, she only gently touched my hair.
Alice, if it can keep you safe, then it is good. But never use it to harm others.
I knew Emily had a kind heart, but it was this kindness that led to her demise. Emily was captured by Charlotte, the Prime Minister's daughter, who suffered from a chronic leg condition, and forced to treat her with acupuncture. Charlotte's condition had been neglected for too long, and the treatment inevitably caused excruciating pain. She believed Emily was doing it on purpose.
How dare you cause me such pain? You'll pay for this.
Charlotte ordered her men to block Emily's meridians and made her watch as her most precious hands were reduced to bare bones. Emily was sent to a medical facility not for treatment, but as a teaching tool. She was tortured daily with needles until she passed away.
In the end, all I received were pieces of her dismembered body, which I couldn't even piece together to give her a proper burial. To avenge Emily, I infiltrated the Prime Minister's residence as a maid, vowing to make Charlotte pay for her crimes. Narrator, tone, serious. I was captured and thrown into the Prime Minister's secret dungeon. The Prime Minister knew very well that I, a mere maid, had no reason to poison Olivia. But needing a scapegoat, I became the perfect one. Narrator, tone, serious. However, he still needed to give his second daughter an explanation. Thus, I endured endless torture in the dungeon. My recently healed leg was broken again, and my face was marred with whip marks, leaving scars. Within a few days, I was unrecognizable. Just when I thought I was about to die, a woman dressed in plain clothes appeared in my cell. Narrator, tone, serious. She stood before me, backlit by the light. I squinted at her, thinking she bore a striking resemblance to Emily.
Woman, tone, serious. I am the Prime Minister's wife.
Narrator, tone, serious. I scrutinized the delicate features of the woman before me. She looked only a few years older than me, yet she was the mistress of the Prime Minister's household. The Prime Minister's wife noticed the doubt in my eyes. She took out a box of ointment from a brocade box and gently applied it to the wounds on my face.
Prime Minister's wife, tone. Friendly, you cured Sophia's leg, didn't you? Then you must know Mia.
Narrator, tone, serious. Hearing my sister's name, I froze, a flash of murderous intent in my eyes, which the Prime Minister's wife caught.
Prime Minister's wife, tone. Friendly, my name is Isabella. Mia is my cousin.
Narrator, tone, serious. It turned out Emily had family. Their ancestors had split into two branches to ensure the family's survival. One branch studied medicine, and the other entered the court as officials. Isabella's father was the official in their generation, and due to his integrity, he had risen to the position of right Prime Minister. Narrator, tone, serious. Isabella's father was close to the Crown Prince, and she had grown up with him, having been betrothed to him from a young age. But Sophia had set her sights on the Crown Prince from the moment she saw him. She wanted to be the Crown Princess and the ruler of the harem. Narrator, tone, serious. She schemed to get close to Isabella, eventually drugging her one night and sending her to her own father's bed. When Isabella woke up, she had lost her purity, and her engagement to the Crown Prince was annulled. Unexpectedly, Prime Minister Lin spread rumors that he and Isabella were in love and had acted impulsively. Narrator, tone, sad. Isabella was scorned by the public. Her parents, to protect her, resigned and retired, but they were suddenly accused of corruption and collusion with foreign powers. Letters were found in their home, and the king ordered a thorough investigation. Isabella's family was exterminated overnight, with only her surviving. Narrator, tone, serious. She knew who had wronged her family. So she willingly married the Prime Minister, bearing the scorn and criticism of the world, just to one day avenge her family. Narrator, tone, sad. After Isabella finished speaking, her face was covered in tears. She gently touched the wounds on my face and suddenly smiled.
Isabella, tone. Hopeful. I once met Mia in the Prime Minister's residence. She told me she had saved a girl and that she might not make it out of the residence. She asked me to take care of you. Isabella, tone. Sad, but I never expected that I couldn't even protect you.
Narrator, tone, serious. I reached out and pulled the weeping Isabella into my arms, letting her cry freely.
Alice, tone, hopeful. Emily, It's okay. We will avenge our family.
Emily took me away from the village, and we wandered from place to place, relieving people of their ailments. She also taught me acupuncture during our travels. But perhaps I was never meant to be a good person. I combined talismans with acupuncture and created poisonous needles.
Alice, what have you done?
When Emily found out, she was furious, but in the end, she only gently touched my hair.
Alice, if it can keep you safe, then it is good. But never use it to harm others.
I knew Emily had a kind heart, but it was this kindness that led to her demise. Emily was captured by Charlotte, the Prime Minister's daughter, who suffered from a chronic leg condition, and forced to treat her with acupuncture. Charlotte's condition had been neglected for too long, and the treatment inevitably caused excruciating pain. She believed Emily was doing it on purpose.
You think you can torture me? Block her meridians and make her watch as her precious hands are destroyed.
Emily was sent to a medical facility, not for treatment, but as a teaching tool. She was tortured daily with needles until she passed away. In the end, all I received were pieces of her dismembered body, which I couldn't even piece together to give her a proper burial. To avenge Emily, I infiltrated the Prime Minister's residence as a maid, vowing to make Sophia pay for her crimes.
What? Jessica, give me that fabric.
Jessica, hearing the command in Sophia's voice, snorted in displeasure and motioned for her maid to take the fabric and leave. Seeing that she was being ignored, Sophia's eyes turned red with anger, and she clenched her fists tightly. Seizing the moment, I took out a needle from my pocket and discreetly inserted it into Sophia's acupuncture point.
Miss, without this shoe brocade, you won't be able to outshine the second miss at the selection banquet.
Instantly, her anger intensified, and her eyes filled with a murderous intent. She quickly approached Jessica, grabbed her hair, and yanked her back, slapping her hard across the face. Jessica's maids reacted, rushing forward to pull Sophia away, but Sophia, now seeing red, kicked them away. She punched Jessica repeatedly until her face was a mess and she fell silent. Only then did Sophia stop, tossing her aside and taking the brocade to her carriage.
Grace, what did I just do?
But it doesn't matter. I have the brocade now.
Seeing her joy, I couldn't help but smile. Soon, news of Lady Emma's sudden death spread. Since it was the Prime Minister's daughter who killed her in broad daylight and took the brocade, the evidence was undeniable. That day, the Marquis sent a petition to the king, crying for justice for his daughter. Many ministers allied with the Marquis also submitted petitions, accusing the Prime Minister of failing to discipline his daughter, who had become arrogant and reckless, even killing someone over a piece of fabric. The Marquis, recalling his daughter's tragic death, fainted in the hall. The king was furious, publicly reprimanding the Prime Minister and demanding that he hand over his daughter within 3 days to provide a reasonable resolution, or he would lose his position.
How can you think about dresses? You killed someone?
A commoner, dead is dead. She dared to take my fabric. She didn't deserve it. She deserved to. I'm just upset she soiled my fabric.
The Prime Minister, enraged by her words, clutched his chest and staggered, spitting out blood. Fortunately, Isabella arrived in time to support him.
You wretched girl. From now on, you are confined to this courtyard. You are not to go anywhere.
Emily took me away from the village, and we wandered from place to place, helping people with their ailments. During our travels, she also taught me acupuncture. But maybe I was never meant to be a good person. I combined talismans with acupuncture and created poisonous needles.
Alice, what have you done? If it can keep me safe, then it's good. But I promise, I won't use it to harm others.
Emily had a kind heart, but it was this kindness that led to her downfall. She was captured by Charlotte, the Prime Minister's daughter, who suffered from a chronic leg condition, and forced to treat her with acupuncture. The treatment caused Charlotte immense pain, and she thought Emily was doing it on purpose.
You will pay for this. Block her meridians and make her watch as her precious hands are reduced to bare bones.
Emily was sent to a medical facility, not for treatment, but as a teaching tool. She was tortured daily with needles until she passed away. In the end, all I received were pieces of her dismembered body. To avenge Emily, I infiltrated the Prime Minister's residence as a maid, vowing to make Sophia pay for her crimes. Thud. Just as everyone was marveling, the Crown Prince, who had been sitting beside the Queen, suddenly clutched his chest and spat out blood. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to the ground.
Help. Someone get the royal physician.
After a long examination, the physician couldn't find anything wrong with the Crown Prince. The king, in a fit of rage, ordered the execution of all the physicians. It was only when a maid was cleaning up the banquet hall that she found yellow fragments on the ground.
Your Majesty, I found this talisman paper.
Talismans had become taboo because, when the Crown Prince was young, a concubine had used them to harm him, nearly costing him his life. The king had then decreed that talismans were forbidden. Unexpectedly, Charlotte had knowingly violated this decree. The king immediately sent people to the Prime Minister's residence to arrest her.
Charles, you want to send me away to make room for your second daughter, don't you? Have you forgotten who helped you achieve your current status?
Prime Minister Lin, eyes red with anger, raised his sword to kill Charlotte, but Isabella stopped him.
Master, instead of killing the eldest daughter, why not let her atone for her sins? Now that the Crown Prince has vomited blood, the king will inevitably suspect you. I have a secret method that uses a woman's flesh and blood to nourish blood needles. Present them to the king to cure his favorite concubine's allergy. The king might not only forgive you but also promote you.
Hearing this, Prime Minister Lin's eyes gleamed with greed. Ignoring Charlotte's screams, he had her dragged back to the courtyard. To the guards sent to arrest Charlotte, he claimed she had taken her own life out of guilt. But in secret, he used Isabella's method, drawing Charlotte's blood daily to nourish the needles. 3 months later, the silver needles faintly glowed red. Overjoyed, the Prime Minister took the box of needles to the palace. However, in his haste, he failed to test the needles. When they were used on the concubine's maid, the maid bled from all orifices and died. The king never expected the Prime Minister to harbor thoughts of harming his favorite concubine. But he couldn't punish a minister over a concubine, fearing backlash from other officials. He could only suppress his anger and expel Prime Minister Lin from the palace.
This is an outrage. I will not stand for this humiliation.
Prime Minister Lin, furious from the humiliation, stormed into Charlotte's courtyard with a sword, kicking the door open.
Spare me, Prime Minister! This has nothing to do with me. Miss said she couldn't live anymore, and even in death, she wanted to bring the entire Prime Minister's residence down with her.
What nonsense are you talking about?
She used forbidden techniques, used talismans, which is why the needle was harmful. I tried to dissuade her, but she wouldn't listen.
Prime Minister Lin, veins bulging with rage, kicked open Charlotte's door, finding her lying on the bed with talismans on her legs.
You wretch, do you want to ruin this Prime Minister's residence?
Charlotte was stunned. She slowly opened her eyes, but before she could say a word, her father had already pierced her heart with a sword.
Take this wretch and bury her outside the city. Make sure it's done cleanly.
Prime Minister Lin glanced disdainfully at Charlotte's lifeless body on the bed and walked out with a cold snort.
The talismans were actually just for treating Charlotte's leg ailment. And the harmful needle was because, during previous treatments, the toxin had already entered her body. Her blood was toxic, so the needles soaked in it naturally became toxic too. But with Charlotte dead, no one would ever know the truth.
I went to Isabella's courtyard and became her maid. The Prime Minister, knowing the king now harbored resentment towards him, began to plan his escape route. He allied with ministers close to him, pressuring the king and the crown prince to arrange a marriage between the crown prince and his second daughter.
By becoming the crown prince's father-in-law, I can ensure a peaceful and secure future.
But he never expected that on the day Olivia married the crown prince, he wouldn't even be allowed into the crown prince's residence.
Charles, from today onwards, I have no ties with the Lynn family.
Olivia, what do you mean?
Charles, I saw you poison my mother with my own eyes. Every day by your side, I've wanted to end you, but I don't need to do it myself. Your retribution is coming soon.
The next day, papers detailing Prime Minister Lynn's treason and corruption spread throughout the streets. The king immediately ordered an investigation of the Lynn residence, and indeed, they found numerous incriminating letters in his study, including those conspiring with other ministers to frame loyal officials to secure his position. With irrefutable evidence, Prime Minister Lynn was imprisoned.
Grace, are we just going to let him die like this? It feels unsatisfying.
Who said it's over?
I raised my hand and softly chanted a spell. In the distant prison, Prime Minister Lynn suddenly convulsed violently, as if his flesh was being peeled off inch by inch. He gritted his teeth, trying to move his body to end the pain by hitting the wall, but he couldn't move at all. In the end, he died in agony.